The settlement of New Terra hummed with the usual afternoon activity, cargo haulers rumbling through dusty streets, merchants hawking their wares, and the distant thrum of atmospheric processors working overtime. 8-year-old Cale Thorne sat on the rusted steps of his family's hab unit, swinging a battered toy spaceship between his fingers. The paint had chipped off years ago, but it was his favorite possession, a gift from his father before the mining accident. That's when he saw her. The creature was small, no bigger than a house cat, but her fur shimmered with an iridescent purple that seemed to shift in the dual sunlight. She had 6 legs, delicate and insect-like, but her face was distinctly feline. Large amber eyes, small pointed ears, and whiskers that twitched with nervous energy. She crept along the alley between hab units, her movements careful, calculated, lonely. Cale recognized that look. He'd worn it himself for months after his father died. "Hey there," he whispered, extending his hand slowly. The alien cat, if that's what she was, froze. Her ears flattened against her skull, and a low, musical hum emanated from her throat. Not quite a purr, not quite a growl. Something in between. Cale didn't move. He'd learned patience from watching the settlement's feral dogs. You didn't chase what was scared. You let it come to you. For several minutes, they remained locked in their positions, boy and alien, both assessing, both uncertain. Finally, the creature took one tentative step forward, then another. Her whiskers quivered as she sniffed the air, processing scents and pheromones with senses far beyond human comprehension. "You look like you could use a friend," Cale said softly. He glanced down at the toy spaceship in his hand, then back at the alien. In that moment, something shifted inside him, a recognition that this small creature needed something more than he needed a piece of painted metal and plastic. He placed the toy on the ground and slid it gently toward her. The alien cat's eyes widened. She approached the offering with the kind of reverence usually reserved for sacred artifacts. Her paw, delicate, with retractable crystalline claws, reached out and touched the toy. A soft, melodic trill escaped her throat. "You can have it," Cale said, smiling. "Everyone needs something to hold on to." The creature looked up at him, and in her amber eyes, Cale saw something he couldn't quite name. Understanding, maybe, or gratitude. She carefully picked up the toy with her mouth and, with one last glance at the human boy, disappeared into the shadows. Cale didn't know he'd just altered the course of galactic history. The next morning, the settlement's alarm system screamed to life. Cale's mother, Dr. Sarah Thorne, grabbed him from his bed and pulled him toward the window. What he saw made his blood run cold. The sky was filled with ships, not cargo vessels or mining barges, warships. Hundreds of them, sleek and predatory, their hulls adorned with symbols that seemed to writhe and shift. They descended in perfect formation, a choreographed display of overwhelming military might. "Stay inside," his mother commanded, her voice tight with fear. But Cale was already running toward the door. The streets had erupted into chaos. Settlers scrambled for cover, security forces assembled with laughably inadequate weapons, and the colony's administrator broadcast frantic messages requesting peaceful contact. The largest of the alien vessels settled in the central plaza, its landing struts crushing market stalls beneath its weight that a ramp descended with a hiss of hydraulics. What emerged made the crowd gasp. They were massive, easily 9 feet tall, with bodies that seemed to be composed of interlocking plates of obsidian-like armor. Their faces were angular, almost reptilian, with glowing amber eyes and mouths filled with serrated teeth. Each warrior carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. They moved with the fluid grace of apex predators. 500 of them at their head walked a smaller figure, familiar in its feline grace. Zyra Valen, the alien cat Cale had befriended, perched on the shoulder of the largest warrior. In her mouth, she still carried the toy spaceship. The lead warrior surveyed the terrified crowd with cold, analytical eyes. When he spoke, his voice was a deep rumble that seemed to vibrate through Cale's chest, translated instantly by hidden technology. "We are the Varanthi Guard, sworn protectors of the royal lineage. We seek the human who showed kindness to Crown Princess Zyra Valen." Crown Princess. The words hit Cale like a physical blow. His mother's hand clamped down on his shoulder, but he was already stepping forward. "That was me," he said, his voice cracking only slightly. "I didn't know she was a princess. She looked sad. The warriors parted like a black sea, creating a path. Zyra leaped down from her perch and trotted toward Kale, the toy still clenched gently in her jaws. She sat before him and carefully placed the spaceship at his feet, then looked up with those impossibly intelligent amber eyes. The lead warrior, General Corvin, as Kale would later learn, knelt before the human child. The gesture was so unexpected that several settlers actually screamed. Princess Zyra Valen was lost during a diplomatic mission, the general explained. We have searched 17 systems. For 3 planetary rotations, she wandered alone, injured and afraid. In all that time, across all those worlds, only one being showed her kindness without knowledge of her station, without expectation of reward. He gestured to Kale with a clawed hand. You gave her your most precious possession. Our scanners detected the emotional residue, grief, loss, love. This toy carried the memory of your father. Yet you offered it freely to comfort a stranger. Kale's throat tightened. She needed it more than me. Zyra trilled softly and rubbed against his legs, her purr-like hum resonating with contentment. General Corvin stood to his full, imposing height. The Varanthi hold a simple truth above all others. Kindness to those who cannot repay, it is the highest form of honor. You, Kale Thorne, have demonstrated such honor. From this day forward, New Terra falls under the protection of the Varanthi Empire. No harm shall befall this world or its people while we draw breath. The implications rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. The Varanthi Empire controlled dozens of sectors, commanded resources beyond imagination, and had never been conquered in 10,000 years of recorded history. Their protection was worth more than all the credits in known space. All because a lonely boy had shared his toy. Doctor Thorne finally found her voice. General, we are honored, but this is too much. Kale was simply being kind. We don't need. Kindness is never simple, the general interrupted, but his tone was gentle. And those who practice it without thought of gain are the rarest treasures in the galaxy. We have seen civilizations rise and fall, witnessed acts of extraordinary courage and unspeakable cruelty. But pure compassion. He looked at Kale. That is worth protecting. Zyra picked up the toy spaceship again and placed it in Kale's hand, her paw lingering on his palm for a moment. Then she chirped, a sound of farewell and gratitude intertwined. As the Varanthi warriors returned to their ships, leaving behind a diplomatic envoy and promises of trade agreements, technological exchange, and military alliance. Kale stood in the plaza clutching his father's toy. His mother hugged him tightly. Do you understand what you've done? Kale watched as Zyra's ship rose